Hey, y'all, it's Letitia with Lighten Up with Letitia, and we're here and we're back with Beauty in Black. Season 2, part 2. We're going to jump right on in. It started right back where we left off. We're going to be doing episodes 9 and 10 today. 9 is called Toxic Vibes. Exactly what they are. So, Charles and Varney are still hemmed up by these henchmen, and Varney goes into big bag lawyer mode, talking about, give me your badge number, and this is an uproar. But Charles is like, listen, they're not actually police officers. But it is also in this moment that he realizes that they came back to finish what they started. And that's exactly what they did. Took him to the safe, told him to give him all the money as well as all the watches that was in there. And before they rolled on out, they were able to get a glimpse of those cut up bodies, child, anyway. But Varney is fit to be tied. He is livid because he has been telling Charles all this time that his lifestyle was going to catch up with him. And that's exactly what it did with all of these strippers that he was bringing to the home, all these attempted robberies. They finally succeeded in this. And because of his lifestyle, this is why they're in this big mess. So Charles yells out, well, just let me go, let go, leave me alone, let me go. And Varney stood there for a second and said, you know what? As you wish. And you could tell that Charles was basically saying, like, stop trying to save me, stop loving me, whatever, even though that's not what he means, but I feel like that's what he was saying. So when Varney walks away, here's Charles, please don't go, please don't go. Okay, so shout out to Tank in that verses, okay? But anyway, we will find that Charles is basically going to need Varney before Varney ever needs him. But moving on. Now back at the mansion, child, Kimmy is still hollering about who is that on the ground, that bloody person. And so Alex takes Glenn to Whitman. Then Whitman takes him to the hospital. But Alex was very sly in how he was like, well, when he was telling him what happened, he was like, I don't know, he fell. Maybe you want to check the cameras, which was his sly way of trying to figure out whether or not there were cameras back there. And Whitman verified that there were no cameras. Child. So then Rain has to explain to Sylvie that she thought that Glenn was graping Sylvie. She has to explain to Kimmy that she thought that he was graping Sylvie. And basically she overreacted and he fell off the thing. She knocked him off of the balcony. And then Angel walks in. And so, of course, everybody is livid with him because he was supposed to be watching Sylvie. So Kimmy goes to talk to Sylvie in her bedroom. And Sylvie's like, oh my gosh, she unalived him. And Kimmy had to explain to her, no, he's not unalive. He's actually in the hospital. When she's like adamant about the fact that she has to go see him. Kimmy was like, no, you're not going to see him. You don't know him. But he was sweet and I kissed him. But she basically thinks it's her fault. So, but Kimmy was like, listen, you don't know him. You don't need to go to him and you're not going. And she was like, I don't have to listen to you. Are you really judging me after all that you've been doing? I was like, this is the first of many conversations that Sylvie's going to have this season that I really wanted to choke her behind. Because, girl, what? First of all, nobody's judging you. Second of all, again, you don't know him. So why are you trying to go so hard for this? Well, you literally met him today. Moving on. She is so hard-headed, and we will see that later on. Now, in the office, Olivia bursts into Mallory's office complaining about Kimmy, talking about, so what we gonna do about this woman? But Mallory was like, listen, I plan to work with her on this. So Olivia was like, just I'll handle it myself, and she storms out. Now also, Felicia called Mallory talking about she got some major tea on Kimmy. So she asked for $1,000 and then told her to come to the club in order to get the tea, child. Now, meanwhile, Horace is in Italy healing and feeling good and speaking perfect Italian, child. And the doctor said that the treatments are working, that he can go home, but that he'll just have to come back for some additional treatments. And then he heard the music outside. He got up out the bed, stood on the balcony, and started proclaiming, he might live, or I might live, I might live. Now, shout out to VKJ because he was saying how he was basically saying it in Italian. But I heard him say, I might live. And we're just happy for Horace because what does this mean for the rest of the family if he might live? Moving on. All right, so Jules and Roy meet to discuss Kimmy because she has vowed to make them pay. But they realize that they cannot touch her. Now, Jules, I don't know why he did this, but he told Roy that Horace is actually currently in Italy and getting treatment, which makes Roy anxious. And he comes up with this stupid plan to like blow up the plane that like send Kimmy on to go see Horace and then blow up the plane when they both come back. Child, what? Just dumb. Because Jules is like, you know that's probably going to tie back to us somehow. How would that's not going to work. So he told him, listen, maybe you just need to slow down, aka stop doing that stuff that you're doing because you're not making any sense. Now, and then just then, Whitman calls Jules to let him know that his son Glenn has fallen and is in the hospital, child. And all Jules wants to know is what happened. Now, back at the mansion, Rain and her botched booty are feeling guilty and absolutely nervous when Alex comes in to inform her that Glenn is not doing well. Now, Angel walks in all pissed off about the fact that Alex is there. So Alex gets a call, thankfully, from Jules to get his butt to the hospital. And so he leaves, but Angel is out here yelling that Alex cannot be trusted. Alex cannot be trusted. Now, I am not feeling Angel right now, but I mean, I think there's some truth in the fact that maybe we can't trust Alex. I think Alex is doing everything that he can to prove his loyalty and that sort of thing, but in this Beauty and Black era, I mean, in this universe, child, I don't think you can really truly trust anybody. But moving on. So Kimmy told Rain that she threatened Jules, and that if something happens to Glenn, for sure, like if he dies, that child, he's gonna come after them, and it doesn't matter if they are protected or not. Now, she needs to call Varney, though, just to make sure that they are indeed protected. Because we know that Kimmy is by marriage, but that addendum that they were supposed to be doing, she's not sure if it's in place, and she wants to make sure. Now Rain, though, she seems to be trusting Alex. Kimmy, not so much. And Angel, not at all. Okay, now Varney comes home to his own home, which, by the way, is super pretty. It is so nice in there. It has like this kind of a mauve background, super pretty. Anyway, he comes home to Roy in his home making a drink. I'm like, why are you making yourself at home in this man's house? You don't know him like that. But anyway, he questions Varney about his father's will and wants to stop it. Now, Varney tries to blow him off, but he finally admitted that he can't stop the will, but he can possibly delay it. But he also tried to delay Roy's request for him to call the clerk so that she could stall it. He was like, well, you know, the office is not open, blah, 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 blah. So Roy makes him call her personally. And she does. And so she did indeed stall it by saying that, oh, I need to add some additional verbiage or whatever. But anyway, this makes Rain, Sylvie, and Angel all unprotected. Then he proceeded to take this man's expensive bottle of liquor, yells out that he freaks dudes, and then finally left Varney's place. Let me tell you something. And I told y'all this on the live. Make sure you join our live panels when we talk about it with the group. Child, I wish in the no, sir. No, ma'am. You're not going to come into my house and then punk me. First of all, what was you even doing there? Second of all, how did you get up in there? And no, you might end up missing. What are you even doing there? Now, I got some more thoughts on Roy, but that was a violation. And he certainly wouldn't have took my stuff. We would have been there fighting for sure. Moving on. Now, back at the hospital, Jules is at his son's bedside and he is barking at Whitman and Alex, asking what happened. Was Kimmy there? Was Rain there? Did they know he was my son? All that sort of thing. But child, they have no answers for him. But he does press Alex to make sure that he's loyal. And Alex was like, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. See what I'm saying? Now, although I do feel like Alex has to speak this way to Jules because, again, he in survival mode. He's trying to get up out this life as well. So I'll give him a pass for saying this stuff to Jules. It is what it is. Now, Mallory called Varney to coax him to take her to the strip club when Officer Traxon walks in, which I felt like was very random. He came out of nowhere. Now, he introduces himself as her driver, child. But all she does is insult his behind, talking about he a big old country ninja and how much money she could have got for him back on the block. I was like, no, she did not call this man an enslaved person. Like, what the hell? Mallory, girl, she just says anything. And calling him, saying that he stinks. Now, she thinks everybody stinks. I'm like, everybody but Calvin. But moving on. Anyway, Varney reluctantly decides to take Mallory to the club, and Traxon just follows them. But Mallory is on a mission to take down Kimmy. Now, Charles, he is somberly walking around everywhere. Comes into Mallory's office. She wanted him to take her to the club at first, but he basically declined, and he walking around looking like Charlie Brown, like he is so sad, but he won't tell anybody what is going on. Nobody knows what actually is going on with him. He's just down. Now, he goes home and grabs a bottle and calls his mama, begging her to come over. So then when she gets there, he tells her to sit down and to have a drink. She was like, no, I'm not drinking. I don't need no drink. Oh, I don't need no drink. I don't need no drink. Ma'am, you're a drunkard and we know this. So why are you trying to act like you don't want to take no drink? But she continues to drink. And he finally is like, okay, Mom, I need you to go look in the bathroom. Well, the bathroom is where all the bodies are all cut up and everything. Which, by the way, how long has it been at this point? They got to be stinking by now. But anyway, she goes and she comes back completely unfazed. No emotion about it at all. And then says to him, oh, is this your first time? Child. She was like, yeah, you left it a mess, basically. So he tells her that the stripper has tried to rob him. And so she says she'll handle it and tells him to leave. Then later on, well, okay, so at first I was like, dang, why was she completely unfazed like that? But considering the fact she told Tony to get in the bag previously, we have to know that this woman is absolutely maniacal. So, okay, that makes sense now. But later on, the cleaners finish up in his bathroom, and we see Andy walking up to Olivia, telling her that it's done. At least the same people that robbed Charles, right? Then she proceeds to say, well, what did you get? How much did Charles have in that safe? $40,000. First of all, I know you freaking lying. Olivia was saying, I know you freaking lying. He only had $40,000 in the safe. But we're looking at her like, we know you freaking lying that you just sat here and admitted that you robbed your own son. Ma'am. Diabolical. We don't even know. Stunned, shocked, flabbergasted. Yeah, she robbed her own son. Whew, that was the conclusion of episode 9. So then episode 10, which is called Playing for Keeps, we pick right back up there where Andy is trying to get Olivia to put down that drink that she is still sipping on. Child, she reminds him that she is Miss Olivia and that she runs the cops and that his mama, Jennifer. Now, why did she mention Jennifer by name? It must be because Jennifer is somehow important to this story at some point. Because I'm like, is Jennifer a junkie? Is Jennifer enslaved? Because you know how they do with things with Jules and them. You know how they do. Or, does Jennifer owe you money? Was Jennifer a cop as well? One of the, like your inside woman or something? I don't know, who was she? So we get the impression that, because I also thought like, Olivia had brought up that botch job at Horace's. And I'm like, well, if you made Tony get in the bag, why didn't you make Andy get in the bag? And it may be because she actually knows Andy from back in the day. Maybe she saw him grow up or something, since she knows his mama. Okay, but I digress. Moving on. Back in the office, Roy and his stupid Kool-Aid grin comes in to talk to Jules about another stupid plan, and said that Varney showed him the will, that doesn't protect those girls, and Angel, of course. And he was thinking that because he knows Varney's secret, sleeping with Charles, that he has him by the balls and that he'll be able to blackmail him and blah, 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 blah. And Jules is looking at him like, again, just unimpressed, unconcerned, not even interested. But then interesting, Roy made a comment that Rain was his next project. What? Moving on. Back at the mansion, they're at dinner. Everybody's eating. And Sylvie has a stank attitude, y'all, and wants to know how Glenn is doing. And Kimmy was like, basically like, we don't know. And she was like, well, I need to go see him. No, we need to just sit and wait until somebody tells us what's going on, whatever. And, Angela was like, yeah, it's best that we do that. And why did she say, oh, so now whores and strippers know what's best for me? Girl, strike number 2. Well, actually, strike number 3. Because the first strike was you going out of the house when you had no business. The second strike was when you was talking to Kimmy crazy, talking about something. I don't have to listen to you with her hard-headed ass. This is strike 3. Baby, she got up, stormed off like a little kid. But the nerve of her to be so damn disrespectful and judgmental when they just saved your whole life. And you was out here messing with some dude rolling around in the hay, literally, with some boy that you just met. I mean, minutes before. So who you calling up? UNITY. Okay, anyway. But I also feel like, okay, I'm trying to remember that this girl is a kid, okay? She's feeling actually abandoned at this point too, because Kimmy is saying listen, I need to get you up out of here. I want to send you off to college for your own safety. And again, now she's feeling abandoned. Oh, you just gonna leave me like mama did? You just gonna throw me away like mama did? I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm trying to remember that this she's a child. Even though she's getting on my last nerve. But this is what teenagers do. And it's like, okay, gotta give her some grace. But I'm like Kimmy, she still need to watch her mouth. Anyway, back in the office, Roy is in the office when Charles comes in. Charles wants help. Now, remember I told you he was walking around looking all somber and everything. It seems like he wants help from people, but he's not verbally asking for the help. So people don't even know what is really going on with him. But Roy, of course, because he's so self-centered, he's always talking about, oh, yeah. He's going on and on and on about the fact that he has Varney by the balls and blah, 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 blah. But Charles had to give him a warning, like, listen, you're going to get enough of messing with brilliant people, because brilliant people will show you just how dumb you are. And Charles leaves after Roy answers the phone for some PUS. Okay, he gets to talking. I guess he's talking to Felicia or whatever. And then after Roy gets off the phone, he proceeds to do a line of Coco. Ciao. Now Mallory and Varney go to the club and they are having an honest conversation about the gay thing. So Mallory had been making some comments, which everybody in this universe makes all kinds of crazy gay comments, but about how what she thought pretty much gay men were. And he had to, educate her like, listen, there are some gay men that are masculine gay men that do not like feminine gay men. They do not like every man just because they have something swinging between their legs. And they don't like being called a bitch. Okay? So they joke about it, and Mallory swears that she knows all about the gay community and blah, 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 blah. Then Felicia comes to pick her up and said, hey, let's go to the VIP because I got this tea for you. And Felicia proceeds to basically tell her nothing, child, nothing. She is high and getting distracted at every little moment. So finally she says, oh, okay, well, Kimmy was hooked up with this thing we called a whale. Now, it did say whale, like as in like the fish. But I wonder if it was like whale, as in like a well that may run dry. I don't know if that's what they meant or not. But anyway, Kimmy was hooked up with this whale who wanted her to work in the office, but didn't want his wife to know. And Mallory is fed up with this riddle of a story, so she snatches the money back until Felicia mentions that this guy's first whale was actually, this guy was a whale first to a girl that used to work at the club named Jillian. So, of course, Mallory's ears perk up because she remembers Jillian. Jillian was her assistant in the office. Okay, so Mallory figures out that this whale that Felicia is talking about is her husband, Roy. And when she asked her about him, Felicia was like, yeah, admitted to sleeping with him. Yeah, I gave it to him good too. Girl, when? Where? She was like, right in this room. So Mallory gave her back the money, told her, let her know when Roy calls. And Felicia was like, oh, he's coming tonight. Child. Now Charles heads to Varney's place. Again, inside this man's place, drinking up his liquor. What? How do these people have a key to Varney's place? And I can see maybe Charles probably did have a key. But why y'all just entering people's places and just not saying nothing? Anyway, so his mama calls him to tell him that the job is done, but baby, you need to pay for it. To the tune of $250,000. And Charles is like, well, I ain't got it. And she was like, well, you and your brother, y'all always wasting your money. And I'm like, ain't that the pot calling the kettle black? Because baby, ain't that the reason why you hounding him for this money? Because you don't manage your money correctly, because you have gambling debts, because you don't take care of your money, ma'am. Anyway, so she told him to get a loan or sell them cars, and that she needed it by Friday. So he, at this point, is frantically calling Varney. Now, Varney is not answering his phone, but he is in this bathroom at the club with this stripper that he had been watching earlier that was on the stage. And that stripper approaches him. So we find out later on that man's name is Evan. And, he is coming on to Varney and, talking about that moolah. And Varney's like, do I look like I'm going to pay for that ass? He was like, well, I'm just saying, but he said, but no, for real though, you a lawyer and I might need your help. So, we'll see how that goes later on. Now, back at the mansion, Alex reports back to Rain that he didn't tell Jules anything, and saying that Glenn doesn't look that bad. She's... How does he not look that bad? The man is in a coma. He cannot talk. Anyway, so she was then saying how she's not sure if she's actually protected. But she also said that they need to keep an eye on Angel because Angel is starting to wild out, and we're going to see just how much later on. But Alex was like, no, he doesn't understand why Horace is also protecting Angel. None of your business, Alex. Anyways, inside, Angel is dressed in labels and got the music blasting. And Rain was like, you need to be laying low, and not balling out of control like this. But he got the jewelry, cars, clothes, all this sort of thing, talking about he going to the club, child. He's tired of being at the end of the line. He's ready to go ahead and ball out. So they head to the club. Rain goes with him because she made mention to Angel that she wanted to buy Delinda's club. And he was like, oh, okay, well, if that's the case, you got to talk to her son, Giovanni. He be at that club I'm going to tonight. So Rain rolled with him. So she wants to talk to him, and Angel was like, well, yeah, we call him Mr. Insane, and he on that stuff. Norman calls Jules, who is still at the hospital, of course, at his son's bedside. And Norman is going on about, basically like, do we handle that Harold and Gloria situation, when he blew up that couple? So Jules is like, it's already handled. It's considered a gas explosion. Now, here is where all of the drama is happening. Now, everybody is at the club at this point. Roy arrives and goes to the back of the club for his parking lot VIP because they literally start freaking in the club and the parking lot, and Varney is ready to go. Now, Mallory got her information from Felicia, but she's stalling because she's waiting on Roy to get there. Now, Rain is looking for this high-ass Giovanni, and he is absolutely looking a hot mess. But they agreed to meet tomorrow. Now, Angel, balling out of control, doing the absolute most. He is buying bottles, being flashy, and thinking that he's the man. Now, Varney, who is waiting on the valet and playing hard to get with this stripper, Evan, finally, he takes Evan's number. And Andy comes to tell him that, tells Evan to come in to get his butt back inside to dance. And Varney recognizes his voice from that robbery. I thought it was interesting too because Andy didn't really flinch either, knowing that that's who he had just robbed. But who knows? Anyway, then Traxon offers to go and find Mallory. Now we in parking lot VIP, and Roy, child, he is going to pound town on this stripper that is not Felicia. And Felicia sees him and runs over, slaps up the other stripper, moves her out the way, and then claims her DIC. Child, this is so nasty. Like, then they start to go to Pound Town. Now, I did see him pull out, it looked like he pulled out a rubber or whatever, but that's still disgusting. Like, he literally went from one hole to another hole in another person. Felicia, girl, you are nasty. Like, what is happening? So anyway, Mallory, who went looking for trouble, spots them, and she loses all kinds of decorum, throws down her stuff, runs over, and then starts beating on Felicia. And that is how it ended. So, we are back. Beauty in Black is back, and they are back with a bang. And I cannot wait to talk about the next couple of episodes. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to join us on the live panel with the crew. And you let me know in the comments what you thought about this comeback for part 2. And give me your predictions and anything you want to talk about this part of the season. So until next time, holla.